A while ago, I had to reject an entire cohort of master's students' research proposals because they just weren't viable and showed a weak understanding of the research topic. Now, many students think that research begins after proposing a research topic, but the truth is, you need to do your research before you even settle on a research idea. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to do that. Hi there, I'm Dr. Kenyon Wong and I run a business helping international students with their master's and PhD research. As an academic at 2 UK universities, I've seen countless students get stuck at the proposal stage because they just can't find a viable research topic. Now, in this video, I will walk you through 4 essential stages that will help you develop a research idea that is not only viable, but well thought out. Now, let me set the expectations right. There's going to be legwork involved in developing your research idea. I'll explain what this prior research looked like and whether you are a master's or a PhD student or even an experienced researcher, the process is essentially the same. So let's get started. Many universities like to use FINER criteria to teach students about how to assess the viability of their research topic and research rationale. FINER stands for feasibility, interest, novelty, ethical, and relevant. Personally, I find that FINER criteria is only useful when you have done your research on the topic. In the following stages of researching the topic, we will address each and every one of these elements in the FINER criteria across the stages. And finally, you can still address your idea against the FINER criteria at the end of the entire process. Finding a research topic is often easier than you think. Start by revisiting your previous modules or assignment. Pick a topic that interests you or an assignment that you did well in. This gives you a head start because you're already familiar with the subject, so you won't be starting from scratch. You can also reflect on the issues or challenges that you have encountered at your workplace or complaints from your colleagues. These real-world problems can inspire practical and meaningful research topics. You can also consider what you'd like to learn more about. Now, this could align with your future career goals, job changes, promotions, or professional development. Think about where you see yourself after your master's or your PhD and what topics truly interest you. Lastly, think ahead to future research opportunities. If you're a master's student, choose a topic that can potentially evolve into a PhD proposal afterwards. If you're a PhD student, think about how the topic can contribute to your future career in teaching or further research. For a deeper dive into these strategies, head on to the link above to catch that video. At this stage, you just need to identify a general topic or an area of interest. While being specific here helps, it's perfectly fine to just have a broad idea. You will refine it over the next few steps. Many of my students struggle to choose between 2 or 3 topics. My advice is to pick the one that you're most interested in, follow on with the next few steps, and rule it out if it's no longer feasible. You can always move on to the next idea afterwards. Don't waste time agonizing over which one is the best research topic when you don't have enough information yet. Bonus tip. Some universities have specific restrictions. For instance, one university I teach at requires research topics to be directly related to the course of study, which can help you narrow down your choices very quickly. Many students skip this crucial step because it can be very challenging, but this often leads to wasted time when they have to change their research idea later on during the proposal stage. Now that you have chosen a research topic that you generally want to explore, it's time to narrow it down further. And this is where preliminary research comes in. I break this process into 3 steps. Step 1, start with a general overview. Begin by reading broadly on your topic to understand the key themes and identify potential subtopics. This gives you a sense of the bigger picture and helps you figure out which element you might actually want to focus on. Resources like Wikipedia or generative AI can be very helpful at this stage. Once you have chosen a subtopic that interests you, move on to the next step. Step 2, dive into the literature reviews. Start with the systematic and the scoping reviews. These give you a comprehensive view of the research landscape, summarizing what already has been done, highlighting gaps that need further exploration. Scoping reviews are especially helpful for identifying research areas that still need attention. If you are curious, you can still go on and read some of the studies that have been mentioned in the reviews. Before moving on, settle on a single research idea, not a subtopic, but a specific research idea. You can keep a small list of other research ideas, but focus on one first and then move on to the next step. You only come back to this list of research ideas if the research idea that you have chosen proves to be unviable in the next few steps. Step 3, read the latest research. By now, you should know what has already been covered in previous studies, but you also need to understand the current state of research, which sometimes literature reviews may not cover. When I say current, I mean research from today, maybe last month, maybe earlier this year, not 5 years ago. Start searching for the most recent articles on your topic using the academic databases specific to your field. For example, in healthcare, I recommend PubMed. If your university provides access, move on to Scopus or rationale. Play around with the search terms and focus on the recent studies to understand the boundaries of existing research. This will help you identify the latest research on the topic, what is known, and what is still unknown. This is critical information for you to move on to the next stage. Bonus tip: if you're considering doing a systematic or a scoping review, check if one has already been done in the past 5 years. If so, there needs to be a very compelling reason for proposing yet another review. When I grade research proposals, one of the first things I look at is whether or not a recent review already exists. If it does, you have a hard time justifying for a new one, unless it is an updated review, which is very tricky to argue for. Instead, you can pivot slightly to an area that hasn't been reviewed yet. If you learned something from this video, give it a little likey, and if you'd like to see me tackle more issues about academic life and research as an international student, subscribe to my channel. If you have specific difficulties about your dissertation or PhD, drop it in the comments and I may make a video about it in the future. Now, some students like to ask me as a tutor, should I pursue this research topic? Unless we tutors are actively researching in that field, we cannot answer that for you. It is your job to convince us that your research is necessary. If you have followed the earlier stages, this stage will not require much extra work. In stage 2, you are likely to have encountered potential roadblocks. For example, you may have found a recent systematic review or a scoping review that has already been done and there is no need for another one. Or you might have come across studies in a closely related population. This step is about consolidating all of your work that you have done in stage 2 and build a strong case for why your research is viable. Here's how you can convince us that your research idea is worth pursuing. Why is this research important? There is no point in researching a topic that lacks societal, scientific, political, or health relevance. Why should anyone care about this topic? What makes it crucial? What problems might arise if this research isn't done? If you have read the literature reviews and the empirical studies from stage 2, this should be quite easy because those papers would have already covered the topic's significance in their background or literature review sections, and that is work that's already done for you. Where is the research gap? After explaining why the topic is important, you need to clearly identify the gaps in the current research. Based on the preliminary research that you have done in stage 2, one of the gaps that you mention must be what your study will address. Why isn't prior research generalizable to your idea? By now, you have likely found similar studies. Perhaps your focus is on a specific population or a context. For example, while past research may have focused on A&E patients, you might want to study stroke patients. You need to explain why your chosen focus is different enough to justify new research and how previous studies do not fully address your specific context. What is so unique about your population and context that render prior research insufficient? Remember, just because something is slightly different doesn't mean that it needs to be studied. Your job is to argue why previous research doesn't apply and why your research is necessary. What is the value of your research? Even if a topic is important and fills a gap, that doesn't always justify spending time and resources on it. There are countless research gaps, but limited resources. So research that brings the most value get prioritized. What societal benefit does your research offer? Will it improve patient care, or will it inform policy or solve a pressing societal issue? As researchers, we aim to contribute knowledge that solves real-world problems, so your research must have tangible value. If you can confidently answer these 4 questions based on your preliminary research, then you have proven your topic's academic viability. But if you struggle with any of these questions, go back to stage 2 and gather more information. Perhaps you need to read more systematic or scoping reviews, or perhaps you need to read more empirical studies about the topic. When considering the viability of your research, it is not just about how great your idea is, it also needs to be feasible within the constraints of your master's or your PhD program. Here are some factors that can make or break your research idea. Time frame. Can your research be completed within the given time frame? For a master's, you usually have 2 to 4 months to conduct the research. For full-time PhD students, while you may have 3 years overall, the actual research phase typically needs to be done within 1 to 1.5 years, as the rest is spent on reading, writing, and editing your thesis. Access to your participants. Can you access the population you need for your data collection? Securing permissions to access participants can take time, and without them, your research cannot proceed. Many students overlook how long these approvals can take, which can significantly delay their project. Ethical approval. Does your research require special ethical approval? For example, studies needing NHS ethical approval can take 6 to 9 months, making them unfeasible for master's students. If you are researching in your home country or a specific local setting, it is your responsibility to understand what ethical approvals are needed and whether or not they fit within your timeline. You may be asked to provide evidence on these ethical approvals, so where possible and under supervisory guidance, you may want to get a head start on them or discuss them with your tutors and supervisors so that they do not cause you delays. Risks to you or your participants. Universities are very cautious about any study that poses high risks, whether it's ethical, physical, psychological, or emotional. Even topics like stress or anxiety, which can seem quite manageable, can still lead to sensitive areas such as mental health issues or abuse, which then complicates the research. Similarly, if you're studying vulnerable groups like children or patients, and potentially dangerous populations like criminals, the risks may outweigh the benefits, especially within the context of doing a research for the purpose of a master's or a PhD. Methodological fit to your skill level. Your proposed methodology needs to match your skill level and the university's expectations. Master students may have more restrictions as compared to PhD candidates. Complex methods like mixed methods research or multi-phase study, which involves more data and multiple types of analysis, can overwhelm a student that is new to research. Similarly, meta-analyses, for example, which require advanced statistical knowledge, are often not suitable for beginners. While learning is part of the process, it must be achievable within the program's constraints. All of these factors, time, access, ethics, risks, methodology, they all play a huge role in whether or not your research is not only viable but also feasible. If any of these areas raise red flags, it is a sign that you need to rethink or adjust your approach to ensure that your research can be successfully completed within the program. If you wish to take the additional step, you can use finer criteria at this point to review your research idea again. But if you have followed the stages and steps I've discussed previously, you will realize that you have already addressed all of them by now. Proposing a research idea takes a lot of effort, and the irony is that you need to do some research before you can even propose your research. These steps will help you land on a viable research idea for your studies, potentially saving you the hassle of revising and reproposing later on. If you're facing any challenges with your research, let me know in the comments below and I will consider covering these topics in a future video. If you would like to learn more about how you can benefit professionally from your research idea, advance your career, or turn your research into something that can nab you a promotion or a new job offer, check out this video and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye!